All right, and we're here with?
My name's Charles Johnson, and I sometimes partner in activity with Oregon Fair Trade and other groups that are trying to get the public aware that the government is trying to sell them out and put corporations more strongly in charge. In the Pacific, with 11 countries, they want to have a super NAFTA called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And that's why I have a 3-language message down there, because NAFTA was bad for Mexico, was bad for America, and it was bad for Canada, unless you're an elite corporate shareholder and CEO. And this thing is like a treaty, and the Senate, even our good friend Ron Wyden, is not as skeptical as he needs to be. He thinks we can smart track this thing so that it can be negotiated in secret. They can tell the Senate, this is the package, it's great, vote yes or no on it. And that's just really not very democratic and not very wise.
What are some specific ways we may be impacted by TPP in the near future, or in what ways we already have?
The biggest risk is that it's a tool to get more people in overseas countries doing your job for less money. That's the biggest risk. So, you know, it might mean that one guy at Intel gets a raise to $250,000 and 10 other people at Intel lose their jobs so that somebody in India, or India's not a TPP country, so let's say Vietnam, that's of all countries.
So even more downsizing than what we've already seen?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are other issues related to food safety and environmental health. Basically, any company can say, oh, well, we think this rule about not polluting the water is making us lose money. That rule should be invalidated and we should get a cash settlement. So it will take money out of taxpayers' pockets, out of private citizens' pockets, and move it to harmed corporations. Another insane idea.
Well, maybe they'll be using robotics to manufacture some of these things as well overseas, having robots building more stuff, and maybe even cutting out some of the slave labor slightly.
You know, labor is a tricky thing. Work needs to get done, and people need to do work usually to boost their standard of living. But as you point out, automation adds a whole another aspect to it. And before we sneak things through Congress, there should be open debate so that the people we elected supposedly to represent us can look at the details and talk with their constituents and say, you know, oh, well, guys that voted for me, yeah, this probably means you'll lose some jobs, but the guy who owns your company will double his wealth. You know, that's, people want to say, well, maybe with his doubled wealth he'll create some new jobs. Well, yeah, or maybe he'll buy an island next to Larry Ellison's island, Lanai, and they'll just let the country collapse while we, you know, die off of poisoned GMO food or something.
There's a lot of focus on where China's going and it becoming, you know, the #1 GDP country, if it hasn't already. What part does China play in this? Is TPP bad for China or good for China?
You know, for ordinary Chinese people, you know, just like ordinary Americans, we're not that different. It's not good. I mean, it's not good for ordinary people. For the leadership in China, like the leadership that doesn't really represent us, they can manipulate it to their benefit.
It's situated for the power elite in China to profit from this.
And the thing I personally feel, although it's, you know, hard to prove, is that the people that are running China, even though they're supposedly part of a godless one-party communist system, are a lot more like the people that are running the United States than they are like you and me. And that's why we need to hold on to whatever we've got left of democracy and learn about the TPP, at least oppose the way it's being passed. It's hard to say you oppose the substance of the TPP because it's secret. They won't tell you what they're doing. And you know, what better reason could you have to be suspicious of something than when your government says you're not good enough to know?
So this is something that's still in development then?
There's a person called the U.S. Trade Representative, and there's interesting things in this country, like there's a trade court. If you walk through the courthouse square in New York City where they have the state Supreme Court and the local 100 Center Street city courts, there's also the U.S. Court of International Trade or some crap like that. And that's moving rights away from the people into specialized bureaucracies. That's bad. There's a U.S. Trade Representative who we're supposed to just trust that he and his staff are going to negotiate what's good for people who make half the money he does, who have real jobs with their hands. And, you know, get in touch with Wyden and Merkley, Blumenauer, let them know that not to be led around by the nose by a few corporations that might increase their profits. That you want open negotiations of the TPP, or you want it blocked.
And those are all local representatives that have voted for it?
They're being very political.
Or they haven't made a stance against it?
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's a difficult situation because we don't know, some of us here, whether really who does Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley, state senators, do they really work for the people, or do they work for Phil Knight and Nike and Intel? So they're more likely to work for you if you reach out to them and let them know that you know something about the issue. If you go on the internet and just use the hashtag TPP, you'll find mostly great information. It's actually got a low bullshit quotient compared to some other topics.